just a couple of quick announcements. So we are actually like opening our coaching program up on September 4th. So really excited. We've had 8 coaches that we started training back in November that started working in like April. The coaches don't focus on treating like depression or anxiety or anything like that. It's more about like helping you find motivation, helping you get unstuck, helping you find purpose in life, sort of overcoming unhealthy habits to like get unstuck. So a lot of times that involves video games, but other things as well. And so the results seem to be like pretty good, and I'll share those in a second. And so since it seems to be working and people are like getting helped, we're actually gonna like have more coaches that'll go live on September 4th. Yeah, so welcome. I know we had sort of talked about talking earlier, and it seemed like it just wasn't a great time.
Yeah, I mean, it's been wild.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about that or yourself, or what you want to talk about today. And thanks for coming on.
Um, yeah, thanks for having me. I don't know. I'm pretty anxious right now, especially the wait like to get on the show. So I think I'll do better once we kind of settle into things.
Yeah, what are you anxious
Um,
about?
just like I don't know. I lost a lot of sleep last night, which is probably, I mean,
No, that's no good.
yeah. Whenever I have like this, I'm awake earlier than I expected to be. So I had like 3 separate dreams about being late to this interview.
Well, I'm the one who's late.
Uh,
I was late.
yeah, well, that
The
kind of makes
irony.
me feel a little better. So it's
Yeah,
it's all right. It's all right.
cool.
Yeah. I just have an incredible amount of scrutiny on me. That's like it's really stressful, you know?
Yeah.
I've kind of become this meme. Uh and the I've been harassed for like 3 months straight now. Like every day I get harassed
Oh
about
shit.
the things like that happened 3 months ago. You know, there's just like all the clips that were taken there were like from like 2 days, and people haven't really heard anything from me since, and I'm still getting harassed for it. So I'm like
That
this
sounds
like
awful.
hard. Yeah, it's hard. I don't think anyone could be prepared for it.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it sounds really awful to be continuously harassed for. I don't even know what they would harass you for. Like,
uh, like my identity, like they want me to be fired. They are upset at me being trans. Um, they think I identify as a deer. I don't. I'm a human. I identify as a furry, but that was one of the things. Like generally how I see I don't think I said anything wrong. And I'm willing to like challenge that. Like I mean I have some regrets about like my phrasing for some
sure,
things, but I think my head was in the right place
heart
the
was in the
whole
right
time.
place.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For
So,
sure.
can I just lay out a little bit about like what this is and kind of like what we try to do here?
Yeah, sure.
So I think Steph, we try to treat everyone basically the same, and it's a chance for us to hopefully actually benefit from what your experience is. Your experiences sounds actually really awful in terms of being harassed and trying to authentically represent yourself. And either, I mean, getting yourself turned into a meme, I think is part of the job description. So
Yeah,
I,
right.
I I don't know how much we can really blame people for doing that because that's what happens on Twitch.
Uh-huh.
We're all meme farming, and it's our greatest source of sustenance. And at the same time, it does sound like a lot of what happens to you or what has happened to you sounds really stressful. And I'm just hoping to understand.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
and so can you tell us a little bit, because I saw like like as part of I watched like a very brief clip, but I'd love to understand more about like what it means to identify as a furry, what it means to uh like I like please educate us, because that's kind of this stream is about learning and sharing knowledge and like growing as a community from it. If you feel like you want to talk about the stress and stuff like that, if there's some way that I can help you with that, I would love to. Sometimes part of the AoE healing of the stream comes from helping an individual person with something that they're dealing with. um
Yeah, sure.
and so if there's something in particular that you want to talk about or some way that I can be of service to you, please let me know.
I think it might be helpful for me to talk a little bit about like the timeline of my
Yeah,
harassment and what
I'd
happened.
I'd really love that, because I really don't know.
So, Okay, so I got accepted. I accepted this position for the Twitch Trust and Safety, the Safety Advisory Council for
Okay.
Twitch. And that position is, I'm one of 8 people, 4 streamers, and we're supposed to talk to Twitch. We have meetings with Twitch where we kind of discuss and what the terms of service of Twitch should be, or the community guidelines of Twitch should be, and kind of um, put our perspective into the mix in terms of trying to advise like Twitch on what direction they should go with those things.
Hmm.
Um, we're kind of just like we're like a think tank. Like we're a um I'm not Twitch staff, and I don't actually have any like direct control over what's going to happen. All I can do is put my voice in and be
Hmm.
like, here's what I wish would happen. Um, part of my blurb was like about me, about, you know, the fact that I'm trans, and about how I have an opinion that voice chat in video games is anti-inclusivity. That it is an uninclusive feature. Um,
Can you
and that's that. Go ahead.
can you help me understand that? That
Yeah. So the idea is that in a competitive game, you either if you let me collect my thoughts a little. Sorry,
sure.
I'm like stuttering a bit, and
If you're
I have a
uncollected
really
now,
good tweet.
I'd love to hear you when you're collected because I think you sound great right now.
Oh, thank you. That's really sweet.
Seriously, I'm not. I mean, I don't think you've come across as unclear at all.
Oh, well, you know, I've been it's been a long few months, so I'm trying to be very deliberate with my voice, and like, you know,
Sure.
I've it's very much unrelaxed me, I guess you could say. Where is that?
It sounds like you give a lot of attention and scrutiny to your thoughts and how they translate into words.
Hmm. And I mean, it hasn't really been that way. Like, that's that's the consequence of like I'm like running these simulations of how are people
Yeah.
going to spin my words, and how are people like how like and that's what they're looking for too, you know, like people, I feel like people are looking to cause, you know, if they can frame me in an inflammatory way, they benefit with clicks. um and that's really scary, and that's the game that's being played. Like I haven't, like my voice has been twisted so much to things that like because people are looking for ways to make me sound bad.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
So, Steph, honestly, what that sounds like to me is actually kind of traumatic. So, like
Yeah.
when human beings, choose their words really carefully, it's a sign that your mind recognizes that you can be punished for saying a particular thing,
Yep.
right? And so it's interesting because like that kind of scrutiny honestly reminds me of people that I've worked with trauma, where they're so careful about what they say because if they say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, they're gonna get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I I I I hesitate to describe what I felt as traumatic, because even that can be used against me, you know, because all of a sudden,
Steph,
if I
Steph,
complain,
I'm doing it for you. See
oh,
that?
thanks, I appreciate you. Thanks, Dr. K. Thanks. Okay, so I couldn't find the thread. I've got a really good thread on it. I'm sure hopefully someone can
Just give
post
us
it in
what you've
chat,
got, Steph. That's all we
but I
want from
can
you.
do it.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. The idea is that using voice chat is a competitive advantage in competitive games. If you use your voice, or you hear other people using their voice, that's like the most information data dense way to communicate, you know, tactical callouts. And people love
Absolutely.
it. It's like super important. Um, the problem arises when you're playing is specifically in pickup groups where you're with other random people and you're trying to climb a competitive ladder. If you speak, you're giving up your linguistic profile, which is like it carries so many identifiers about your identity, your gender. Even if you have like a speech impediment or a lisp or a stutter, there's so many things that can um, that can open you to disproportionate abuse and harassment from from your peers, or from from the other people in the match. And I think because of this, because we have there's so many social biases against female gamers or female sounding voices, I think that's one of the main reasons why you see more men in competitive team games, and there's a greater diversity in single player titles. Like a woman won the Hearthstone finals at BlizzCon recently, and um, but you don't. It's harder to see that diversity in other teams,
Yeah.
like in team games.
Okay. That's really interesting. Um, let me just make sure I understand you. So you're saying that like voice communication basically exposes parts of identity that are disproportionately reacted to in terms of like bias and toxicity.
Yep, yep. And there's
And
like it's not just toxicity, it you also can have these like subtle biases, like your calls won't be listened to as much, and that's like a lot harder to prove.
sure.
But just some voices are less respected, and the person with that voice can't really control that.
Yeah. So and then you're saying that as a result, since some people's voices are more or less respected than others, we should take voice chat completely off the table.
False. I don't believe that. I mean,
What so
that's what
what
people think. I mean,
Yeah,
I
that's why I'm
I just
clarifying.
think, yeah, sure. I just think it's unfair. I think it's important that we raise awareness that it's unfair, like something that we should talk about. It's something that a lot of people deny, and I think the strongest thing to do is to try to increase the data density of other non-voice communications. So people that feel like their voice puts them at a disadvantage are at less of a disadvantage because they can use pings and prefabricated voice lines
I see.
and
So what
the
you're
like.
saying, so thanks for clarifying, right? Because at the beginning
Sure.
you had said something about voice and, competitive advantage. So like you think
Right.
voice chat should stay in the game. It's just we should
Yeah.
be careful because since there is a bias within the voice chat, we can start to think about other more resilient communication methods that are less open to bias.
Correct.
Thanks for clarifying. Because
Yeah,
for
sure. And that's something that's a little difficult because like I say that it's unfair, and I think people jump to she wants it gone. But life is unfair. There's a lot of unfair things in life, and the best we can do is try to make these systems more inclusive, instead of like taking them away.
yeah, I mean, I think I tend to have a different sort of flavor there.
Sure.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with anything you're saying. I just think that if like the problem is toxicity, like that's what you have to deal with, right? Like
Right.
everything else to me feels honestly a little bit like a band-aid, and begs the question like why do women in games get treated differently and like what's going on there? And if we can figure
Hmm.
that out and target like the toxicity at its roots, then that's sort of that tends to be what I tend to focus on, which is,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just as a individual clinician, like I work with individuals and I tend to
Right.
think about the individual level. So how can we change someone being toxic? Like how can we change one person's toxicity in a game? And then I think, because I think, like you said, voice
Hmm.
comms are awesome. And I felt like I kind of disagree with you a little bit if we were talking about canning voice comms, just because they are more open to bias. But your
Right.
nuanced view, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
It's interesting.
I wish.
Yeah.
I think it would move society and like gamer culture in general if more women were like winning competitive titles.
Yeah.
And so I kind of see that as like the goal is if we can make these games more inclusive,
Can I toss out
then
a troll
we're
thought?
going to see. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so like, don't take this the wrong way. But so there's a troll inside me, okay? And you have to please let me know if you take this the wrong way. But like, there's a
Okay.
troll inside me, and I don't actually believe this, but that sort of says like, well, if women were better, they would win more, right? And I don't think that that's actually fair. But it's an interesting. I just noticed that reaction within myself, and I was just so surprised by that conditioning. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I hear that. I've heard that troll a lot.
Yeah,
And I don't think that troll is real. I don't think that's the
Oh,
problem.
I think the troll is real. I don't think the troll's analysis of the
Right,
problem is real.
right. That's what I mean.
But the troll,
Yes.
even within myself, I was really surprised to have that reaction because I'm such
Hmm.
a understanding and open-minded person. But I have that troll. There's something inside me that's like kicking and trying to troll
Yeah.
people, and it's
I mean,
weird to feel.
it's a difficult thing to be in a competitive environment. Like you're trying to play on a team with four other guys, and they see you as a woman, and you kind of feel like you have to be better than you have to prove yourself kind of above and beyond your male counterparts for the
You
other people
absolutely
that are
do.
trying out for the team. And like, because otherwise, like if you're not demonstrably better, then they aren't going to take the risk with you because you're gonna make some amount of the people on the team a little bit more uncomfortable just because you're different. Um,
Yeah,
and it's
I've been.
and that extra pressure can break you too because you're trying to be at the top 0.01%, and trying to be better than possible is not going to help you get on the spot.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about women in pro gaming and also Indian people in pro gaming because there are a billion of us out there, and there are very few Indian pro gamers. There are a couple out
Hmm.
there, but um, actually, maybe there are a fair amount now that I think about it. May just be a bias on my end. But I would love, Steph. I've been thinking about this a lot. I would love to like take a group of promising female gamers and help them like handle their stress and like make it pro. Because
Yeah,
if you're saying that there are stresses that are additional to like the regular stresses of going pro, I wonder how we can sort of fix that so that like we can have more women in pro gaming. Because I don't see a biological reason why women
right.
like if the NFL it's a different story or like
Yep.
but in pro gaming I don't get it. But let's go back to the timeline. So you were saying, so yeah, can you tell us about the timeline? Sorry, I went off on a tangent.
No, I thank you. It was a good tangent. So that left a sour taste in a lot of gamers' mouths because that was like their first taste of me is like Steph's this trans girl, and she thinks that voice chat is bad and we need to ban it.
Okay.
Um, and then um, and then some really scary stuff started happening. I got the attention of a really scary website that I don't want to say their name,
Okay.
but they uh, built a like portfolio on me, and they started working to dox me and um, threaten my life. Uh,
Holy shit.
yeah, and they and yeah, and it was super scary. I all I could do was have my I had some of my moderators like watching the thread, and just they just kept getting closer to my address, and they were just kept like
And what's your understanding of why they would do that? What did you do to evoke this? Is it just that you were on the safety advisory council or you made statements about
they they are a transphobic and white supremacist website. They
okay.
are anti. They are like radically right aligned from what I can gather, and they are. I am their enemy by identity alone.
Okay.
Um, and so they were. So um, and that was just one. That was just one website I saw. I know of later, or maybe around the same time. Um, some of the Chan boards were starting to like take note of me and organize harassment against me. So
What does that mean?
I
Organized harassment.
like threads were made on these offsite websites with the purpose of trying to find and like like gather hatred against me and like send people my way, or like
How does that
let's
feel?
go hate on her. It's um I've been streaming for like 4.5 years. I've been out and proudly trans for the whole time. I've faced a lot of harassment, and this was a whole new level of like hundreds of people coming in and harassing me. My stream was usually like 100, and now I was getting like several thousand viewers, and I could not tell how many of them were just there to harass me, but a significant portion were there just to hurt me. And I think, and it it's a complicated feeling. Um, I really want to make a safe place on the internet. Like I care a lot about the direction that the internet is going, and I really want a space where people can become better people. And all this harassment has made me question whether or not I'm capable of having and maintaining a space like that. And that's been really hard. It hurts. It hurts a lot.
What hurts about it?
Like I've been forced to change my behavior, and I've compromised on like my what I value my space for has been like compromised against my control. Like my voice has been taken from me, and
By your
um
voice has been taken from you, you mean that when you speak out, you were met with a certain kind of response?
yeah, that like, well, I've kind of I well, if I feel myself becoming more defensive, and like even just kind of interacting with trolls, that in a way feels like my voice has been taken from me, because like my content, my chat interaction has been taken from me, because
I see.
I have to be something different. I have to react to this, and I have to be in the mind of these trolls. I have to like try to understand where they're coming from to try to understand them. I can't just like not read and assess uh what's been coming at me.
Can I think for a second?
Sure.
So I have kind of a weird question, and is it like, please let me know, Steph, if I ask something that you find to be offensive or challenging in some way. I'm going to sort of challenge a particular viewpoint that you've shared. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and this is just more for broader education. So there are a couple of disclaimers here. So I had a patient once who kept on saying that people were treating him a certain way because of his money. And he's like, "Oh, this person is jealous. Like they're treating me this way because I have so much more money than they do." I was like,
Hmm.
"Oh, possible, right? Certainly possible." And then at some point, like I started wondering, like, is this actually like, are you being treated the way that you're treated because of your money, or are you being treated the way that you're treated because of your actions? So, like, part
Hmm.
of it is like sometimes we get judged for what we represent, and sometimes we get judged for what we do. And it sounds to me like what you're describing is really scary, and I don't think that that's a fair way of judgment. I mean, if we're talking about people who are like truly transphobic and are hating on you and stuff like that because of what you represent, then that's there are people out there like that. What I'm curious about is that like I think a lot of people in our community feel like they are judged because of some attribute of theirs, right? Like I get like let's think about the incel community, for example. They say like, "Oh, I am judged because of this like particular thing that is outside of my control about who I am. I am a beta. I am a simp. Therefore, dot dot dot." And what I'm curious about is like I'm not saying that these people aren't transphobic or that they're not hateful toward you because of your trans nature, but what I'm curious about is how does someone know whether the judgment that is placed upon them is a genuine question, okay? How
Yeah.
do I know whether someone is doing something because I'm rich or they're treating me a particular way because I'm an asshole? how does an individual like know the difference of unfair judgment versus fair judgment?
Um, that's a really good question. And you have to, I mean, people have to reveal themselves through context. And I think if you judge someone for, like, if I judge someone for being transphobic before they reveal that they're transphobic, then I have judged them unfairly.
Sure.
But when several of my other harassers, or say a whole scary website
Yeah.
that's, like, I know some amount of my harassers are transphobic,
Sure.
are attacking me for the wrong reasons.
Do you get attacked for
And
the right reasons?
I don't
Is that
think so.
okay?
I don't know what like I think a lot of I think I've been by some people I've been framed in a way that um people hate me, but if they got to know me, they wouldn't hate me. And I think there are some
Sounds
people
unfair.
that hate me, and if they got to know me, they would still hate me.
Well said.
um, so yeah, and that
So here we
kind of
go.
gets to this. So there's this kind of, if you don't mind, this is kind of a
Yeah.
segue into timeline point number 2, which
Yeah,
is
please.
one of my first streams back. I was trying to play Celeste, and it was a mess. What I did is I put my
I'm
sub only mode on for a while,
I'm
and then
confused.
what I would do.
When you said first stream back, what can I lost you there? Did
Oh,
something happen?
like, let's just say the first stream since the Trust and Safety Council announcement. It was either the first or the
Oh, so
second.
so it was just the announcement that got people like targeting you, just that you were on
Oh,
the Trust and Safety Council?
100%. We're not even at any of the clips I've said. I'm already harassed and
How were
getting
people
doxxed.
chosen for the Trust and Safety Council? Do you know?
I'm not entirely sure. I think yeah, I don't. There's yeah, I don't know the process. I was just approached by two lovely people.
Okay. I'm kind of curious. Like, can I toss out another little troller's thought? And let me,
Yeah,
Steph, if
sure.
I overstepped in any way, do you feel like I'm being disrespectful or anything?
No,
Sometimes I do.
you've been fine,
Okay.
and I'll do my best to let you know
Yeah,
if I
please
feel
let
you
me
have
know.
it.
So I sometimes find that like challenging people's assumptions is something that we do on stream and just so we can clarify our understanding. But there's a part of me that says like, the Trust and Safety Council, if we really want to understand like how to manage Twitch and if we want it to be representative of Twitch, there's got to be a flaming incel on there. Right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that probably would have helped.
I mean, are you being
How
sarcastic? I'm really curious. What do you think if there
no,
was?
no. I think that I would have helped with my harassment. I don't know
Yeah.
if it would have helped well, I would have helped the council. More perspectives, broader perspectives, the better. And, like,
Yeah.
I have some well, I don't know, weird isn't really the word. I'm willing to speak my mind and have inflammatory perspectives like this voice chat thing, which is something I've stood up for,
I
and I
appreciate
think
that.
that's
I think
part of
it's
why I was selected for this council, is because I will speak my perspective, and, like,
that's awesome.
even I feel like I'm guided by my own moral compass, that I
That's
am proud
clear.
of.
I think it's awesome that you speak, Steph.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyway, so sorry for derailing you again. So it sounds like
That's
Trust and
okay.
Safety Council happened. Uh, the internet started going, "Eee." Am I doing that right?
Yeah. Yeah, and if I can be just a little bit salty,
Yeah,
I
go for it. Salt away.
all this the announcement came before our first meeting. Which I think is just it's frustrating, because I feel like it would have been more impactful if the council had met a few times, if we had accomplished something, if we could bring something to the table. But instead, I think Twitch was really excited to be like, here's our new initiative. Um, and it's just part of my personal philosophy, and I think a lot of other people's philosophies too, that like when you talk about something you're going to do or something you're working on or planning, like I think you're less likely to follow through on it because you're kind of
Yep.
cashing in on the idea before it like reaches fruition.
Yeah,
So,
I'm with you 100%. We literally talk. I mentioned that concept on stream actually last week. And in the Hindu and Buddhist traditions, there's this practice called mantra, and it's like you
mhm.
chant something but you keep it secret. And one of the key things about mantra practice is if you disclose your mantra to other people, it diminishes its power. And that
Yeah,
that
sure.
airing things actually diminishes their power, which is useful in the case of trauma because you're airing things that are eating you up inside and it diminishes their
Mm,
power to eat you up. But if you have something good and you air it out, then it diminishes its power and you're just kind of bragging and you're all talk and no walk. There's something definitely there. Okay,
yeah,
so you were salty
this is
because
kind of a side.
yeah. Okay, so then you went
I
back
can
to
move on.
yeah, so we went back to streaming.
Yeah, I went back to streaming. We went back to streaming, and I'm trying to talk to my chat, and uh, I mean, I say a lot of things in that stream, and I
What does
mean,
that mean?
of course, well, I'm just like I'm interacting with my viewers. I'm engaging with my trolls. I'm saying that like the
Your
volume of
trolls.
words,
Okay.
the volume of words I am producing is great.
Okay.
Um, which is kind of maybe the first problem is that like now people have their like pick of what they can
Sure.
clip out of context
Yep.
for me. And then the first thing that really goes viral is I say, you know, I think a lot of you gamers are white supremacists. And I think most people saw that clip. Um, and that that was in response to the previous, I mean, the stresses I've talked about, and to, you know, comments of people, um, you know, arguing for ethnostates in my chat. Like it was like I was actually reading Nazi ideology in my chat room at the time.
What's that?
But it's it's like it's like absurd. It's like, and I think that's where a lot of this like there's like it's weird because it's so inflammatory, it's so terrible, and a lot of people say that. I stutter every time I say a lot now, by the way, because I like crutch on the word a lot. Like I use it a lot
You've been
to
traumatized.
mean like
Pay
a,
attention.
you know. Um and some people love to speak. They use Nazi symbolism and speak Nazi ideology to get a reaction. They do that to troll, and I'm willing to think, and I want to think that the majority of people um, that are using like say Nazi words and use Nazi symbolism are doing it to troll and don't really believe it. But I also know that some amount are serious. And when you leave room for jokes, you leave room for people to be
Mm.
radicalized and like actually get exposed to these
Kernel of truth,
dangerous
right?
ideas. Yeah.
To every joke.
And you know, it's kind of it's like a weird spectrum, and it kind of percolates up to this idea that I think the most mainstream kind of uh uh ideology how I don't words. Um, there's this idea that some people in society are like invalid of existing in that society, and people feel this in different ways. But like there's plenty of people that think that disabled individuals should just not exist. Like if you can't have a job, if you're poor, if you're on welfare, you are better off dead. And I think way too many people believe this, either consciously or subconsciously.
Sure.
And there's lots of reasons why they do, and I think it's really scary, and that's something that like trans people face all the time. I mean, one of the
Sure.
largest things I hear is that I'm mentally ill and therefore should kill myself. Sorry, I feel like I should have had a content warning before saying that. I forget there's like a chat and everything here. Um,
Was that
but
out of line? I'm confused.
a casual reference of suicide is can be a bit much for people, I guess.
Okay.
And not I guess it is. Um, so but I mean I hear that a lot, and it's this so and anyway, I guess I just went on another tangent. Um,
I
but
find your tangents to
the
be helpful, Steph. I
cool.
think they give us a lot of color. Um,
Thank you.
I'm kind of curious. You know, it's interesting because you say like some people talk about other people not being allowed to exist. I wonder. So I've certainly seen that in terms of hatred towards a particular ethnicity or gender identity or sexuality or whatever. I'm curious, what do you think about Nazis? Should they be allowed to exist?
Um, I think there is a paradox of tolerance that to be tolerant, you need to be intolerant of intolerance. Um,
Some real five head stuff, dude. Yeah, it's interesting.
so yes, I would say. But you know, I think we should judge each person kind of on their impact on others. And if someone is hurting many other people, I don't think they should like not exist, but I think they should get help and they should be in a place where they aren't able to hurt as many people or, you know, deplatformed, for example.
They should be deplatformed.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay. Thanks for, was that an okay question?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it really helps me understand kind of what your viewpoint is. Um, okay, so kind of going back to the timeline. So it sounds like you started getting a lot of hate. And then you made the statement that most, are you gamers or
Oh,
most
you did
gamers?
it. Okay, but see, that's you did the thing where people think I said most gamers are white supremacists or all gamers or the
Yeah, so,
majority of gamers. But
right.
the actual quote is I think a lot of you gamers.
Yeah, so if you pay attention to what I did, I tossed out two or three different phrases because I wasn't sure
Yep.
exactly what the quote was.
Uh-huh.
So I said you gamers or most gamers, or I was going to ask you actually, like, what was the
Right.
actual quote
Sure.
again?
Sorry to interrupt you, but
No, it's okay.
I mean that's what I hear all the time. I mean like when I enter a new room or something and people um this is an anecdote from VR chat actually. I'm on VR chat quite a bit. I had a you know, people sometimes figure out who I am and they're like, "Oh my gosh, she's the one. She's the one that said all gamers are white supremacists." And I'm
Mm.
like, "No, I was just trying to call out some of the people in my chat. Like I was trying to say it how I saw it to people in my chat and but because I use the word phrase a lot, I I opened myself up to the subjective idea of what a lot means, and that gave people the power to write and create hate content that made it out that I thought most gamers or the majority of gamers. Then that like permeated this like public consciousness that like I said most, many, or all.
Yeah, and just to be clear, so I want to point this out. So I think that's just what happened between you and I, right? So like I said, you said you gamers or most gamers, and maybe the VOD will crucify me. But I think what I'm noticing is that you picked out a particular thing that I said and judged my statement based on that piece of it, which is normal, by the way. Does that make sense? Right. So
Not entirely
I
following.
was stumbling along trying to
Hmm.
recall what exactly your phrasing was.
Right.
And so I said something like, I think in the VOD show, maybe it's a perception of memory error on my part, but I remember kind of thinking what I thought in the moment was like, I don't remember exactly what the phrasing was, like you or most. And the second I said most, your mind kind of picked up on it. And then you kind of jumped in and you said, you see, you just did it. And to which I would say, yeah, absolutely, I may have done that because my perception could have been incorrect. I may have just judged you based on I may have made a nuanced argument collapse into a simple judgment. But at the same time, I think that's exactly what you did to me, because I was actually looking for the right word, and then what
Mm-hmm.
your mind latches onto, which is normal, by the way. I'm not trying to blame you for it. I think it's just a really
Sure.
common principle that we tend to do, which is part of the reason why the internet is the way that it is that once we get burned by something, we start looking for it, which is like normal. Like, so like it's evolutionary that if I get bit by a snake, I'm going to be paranoid about ropes.
Yep.
And
But
yeah,
I think there's a significant difference between saying there's a lot of white supremacists in my chat, which isn't, I mean, that isn't the direct quote, but just for example, to say there's a lot, you know, that can mean 10, like 10 is a lot. But when you change that phrasing to
most.
most,
Absolutely. More than
it
50%.
becomes a more than
Yeah.
50%. And it also becomes something that's larger than my chat itself, which is important for like framing how people have been attacking me.
What do you mean by that? Help me
It
understand.
means it becomes something that I'm not just referring to my chat anymore. I'm referring to all gamers.
Got it.
So yeah, I'm sorry for jumping on that, but it is
No, I think it's
part
good
of
that you
like
did. I think it's fine that you jumped on it. I think it's normal to jump on it.
because I've been trying to defend myself on this since the start. It would be a different thing if I misspoke, if I said most, but I didn't, and I think there's a huge difference. Um, and I think a big part of why people have been attacking me is because they think on a personal level that I have called them a white supremacist unfairly.
I see. And what is it like to be so misunderstood or being judged in for something that you didn't say?
Um, it is exhausting, in a word. It is, I'm constantly trying to correct myself, and it feels like my voice has been taken away. If you watched a YouTube video about me, anyone in my chat, sorry, I said my chat. That's a reflex. Your chat. I'm not stealing
My
your
chat,
chat,
your
Dr.
chat.
K.
I
Chat.
liked the way you said my trolls earlier. Like it's like you had these
Oh
little pet
yeah.
trolls hanging out in your like
Yeah,
I'd
they
like a
do.
pet
Well,
troll. It's not my chat, it's not your chat, Steph. It's Twitch chat.
right.
They
Yeah,
own
totally.
themselves.
Yeah, that's the truth. If any of y'all have seen a video of me, no, not a single one of those YouTube creators asked for my opinion, asked for my voice, or properly looked into context for me. None of them cared to hear me. Um, they wanted to make me look as bad as possible to generate clicks and revenue for themselves. Or they just were trying to, you know, do the best job they could. I mean, I guess that's the most kind way I could see it. But even then, I don't think they did a very good job because they didn't listen to me or hear me out.
Yeah, so Steph, there's something that I'm trying to like understand, which is like there's something, oh God, this is gonna get so taken out of context. There's something like incredibly juicy and succulent about you as a target. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
like there's something about either what you say or what you do or your appearance or your identity. I don't know what it is, but there's something about you that people like seem to really love to hate. What's your understanding of that?
I think I am unashamed to be authentically me. I am different. I um I mean, geez, if we move down the timeline, you might understand a little bit
Yeah, so
better.
let's
Cause
do that then. Maybe we can table that question and we'll get to our answer.
sure. Um.
Sorry, Steph, I keep on derailing you from your timeline. I really
Oh,
want to hear it, but
I'm here. It's great. This is great.
yeah.
We're like going through it together, and I like that we're doing this in like chronological order. It's nice. So Well, the thing is, I was a little bit, I guess provocative is the word on my next stream, because I was frustrated. I was frustrated that I was being taken out of context and that kind of thing. Um, and people were spreading this misinformation that I was a deer, or I believed that I was a deer. I'm just a furry. I think that it's I am like, I'm trying to describe that, because furry can mean a lot of things, but in general I feel very welcome in the furry community, especially the furry community in VR chat. I have an affinity for deer. I think deer are really cute and pretty. They make me go ah a lot. On some level, I wish I had fur and a tail. If I could choose my body, if I could be like some kind of avatar, I would, in a transhumanist kind of way. Like, I would love to make those modifications.
What does that
Um,
mean? I still don't understand what a furry is, and I certainly don't know what transhumanist means.
Transhumanist is like, if you like, it can be a furry thing, but maybe it's more easily understood as like kind of like a cyberpunk future kind of way would also be transhumanist. So in the idea, like, I wish I had a mechanical arm that did all these things, or if I had the ability to have a mechanical arm that had special powers like Deus Ex, I would do it. Or I have a friend who uh, is
So like becoming a
feels like
cyborg
she's in, yeah, like becoming a cyborg, or like
is what you mean
that
by
really,
transhumanist.
yeah,
Okay. So
yeah,
someone has like a prosthetic leg, does that make them transhumanist?
by some, definitions, yeah, I would.
Okay. So is someone who's transhumanist no longer human? Or what does that mean?
No,
No isn't.
they're like upgrading their biological, they're still human, but they're like upgrading their form in some way.
Hmm.
They're like, yeah, it's like a transformation into something better, and like an idealized transformation, which um you can see there's a lot of overlap within the trans community and these other things. I have transitioned. I have, which is largely because I have a preference for estrogen. It works better for my brain. Um, but it's like changed my physical form and that kind of thing. And um, in a way that is, I don't really, I don't have like super nuanced answers to your questions, but I hope you
You
know where
don't?
I'm getting at with that.
Well, yeah. So
Okay,
can you tell me what it means to be a furry? Like,
I
what is it?
think I don't want to represent the entire furry community. I don't want to, like, I especially don't want to misrepresent them. But I think to be a furry, you wish your body had animal attributes. Um,
Hold on, let me look it
like,
up. Ish your body had. Okay, keep going. Thanks for pausing.
like fur or a tail, and I think people can have like dysphoria about that too. Like, feeling like they should have a tail, or they are sad that they don't have one, etc. There's also furry feelings of like, furries in my experience are also, and kind of myself included, are trying to be kind of more in touch with their natural animalistic side, like kind of, I guess, the inverse of being civilized. Like, whatever you feel like civility is, do we really need that?
Primal.
Can we just make, yeah, primal noises, primal expressions of emotion and that kind of thing, and trying to get in touch with that is also something that you see in the furry community.
Okay.
And the furry community is also like, uh is kind of like a safe space, and in for queer people, and a lot of queer people go to the queer community, and the queer community, like the queer community and the furry community, are very intermingled, because they're both societally like outcast in some regard.
They're allies. The enemy of my
Yeah.
enemy is my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Sure.
what does it mean to be queer?
Queer is um that's I don't think I've ever been asked that, and it should be an easy question, but it's a lot of things. To be queer to me is like it's like the largest of the umbrella terms. Like if trans is an umbrella and gay is an umbrella, like queer is the umbrella of umbrellas.
So
Um,
what is it an umbrella for?
uh, any sexual or any sexuality or identity or gender identity that is outside of the norm. Um,
Norm meaning heteronormative and cisgendered.
yeah, yeah, right.
Okay. So queer is anything that is not heterosexual or cisgendered.
Straight, yeah,
Yeah.
cisgender,
Okay.
heterosexual, correct.
Thanks for clarifying some of these terms because
Yeah,
my definition of queer comes from the toxic internet, which is that it's something that you call your teammates when they disappoint you in video games when you make a mistake.
right,
Right.
right.
And that's not.
And yeah, I personally I don't consider queer a slur. I think it's just a lovely large umbrella.
Yeah.
But some
I'm
people
not.
would. Yeah,
What I'm saying is
right.
that like the reason I'm asking for a clarification is because words get used a lot by people who mean something entirely different. Right? Like when I feed in my lane in Dota, my experience of the word queer is that's what I get called. But
Yeah,
that's
sure.
not. I don't think that's what it's supposed to mean.
And I
um,
actually really appreciate you redefining what the norm is because I think it's better for people to say that, you
yeah.
know. Uh, yeah, so
Uh,
thank you.
yeah, I'm with you there. You're welcome, I suppose, is the right answer.
Mm.
So when you kind of say like when you identify as a furry, and I get that you don't represent the entire community, because I think a big part of what we do here is that the assumption that we're talking to one person, right? And what
Right.
we try to do here is understand what about this person or what about this conversation applies to me. Like that's the whole foundation of AoE healing. That we
Hmm.
can have one conversation with an individual person, something about that person can resonate with everyone else who's watching. So can you
Right.
just tell us what it means to you to be a furry?
Yeah, well, I would like to get more in touch with my primal side. I think when I'm really comfortable, I make a lot of uh immediate like impulse noises to emotional stimulus, especially when I'm feeling safe, and that's something I want to foster and get better at because I feel like that helps the people I love understand me and like know know how I'm feeling like immediately. And I feel like stuff like that we've lost. Um
Hmm. But
and
does that make you different from other people? Like making primal noises when you feel emotionally safe, isn't that like just part of being human?
um,
Or am I
yeah,
missing something there?
I think that's it. I think it is. But I think a lot of people repress that. So I don't think that necessarily makes me a furry, but like maybe it makes me a human furry in the sense that like I am trying to be more of a human animal instead of like this civilized, you know, idea of what a human should be.
Okay, interesting. Okay. That's helpful. So you think like a lot of civilization is restrictive,
Yeah,
like
yeah. And we in
the wearing
general, I
of
think
underwear instead of free balling it,
yeah,
right?
sure. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And well, and I think a lot of these systems like it's a shame. I think a lot of people are more have are way more beautiful than they know and they are trying to be something else that is not themselves and I really wish to inspire authenticity into people. Um and that's something that like is I something I like about being trans, because my I wear my authenticity in that sense. Like I know I'm trans, I know I'm a woman, like I know this transition was right for me, and hopefully that can help inspire other people to take on whatever transition they're looking for in their life and like and make the change to be more them.
I know we have a timeline to get through, but man, do I have so many questions. So let's do the timeline. And then I would love to hear your perspective about what it means to be trans and how would someone know if they're trans? But let's get to the timeline. Can I table that? Get to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So let's finish
Either
the
way.
timeline.
Finish the timeline. I mean, it's ongoing. We got.
Okay.
I mean,
So
we've gotten through
what
2
happened?
days
Okay.
or so, like 2 or 3 days.
Okay, I'm not going to respond. Go. I should stay silent. I shall let you reclaim your voice, Steph.
Oh, thank you. You've been great, Dr. K. Thank you so much for having me on. So okay.
Even that is sort of authoritarian, isn't it? I will let you reclaim your voice. Interesting, right? As if it's mine to let you reclaim. Sort of the very opposite of. Anyway, I promise I'll be quiet. Let me just put it that way.
You don't have to be. Where were we? Okay, so yeah, so there's the second comment, and then yeah, day 3. So I get a little trolly on the third event, and this is something I kind of regret. And I was talking about people taking things out of context, and I was trying to make a point, like a tangible point about how things are taken out of context, and I say that like I preface what I'm about to do with, watch this get taken out of context too. And then I say something along the lines of, like, I'm a deer. I think I'm a deer. I love to prance outside my backyard and eat grass. And then I say, okay, like, that was a joke. Like, I don't mean that. And of course, I knew what was going to happen.
You were
And
clip
for some
farming,
reason,
Steph.
I poked it anyway. I poked that universe anyway. And I just let it happen. I made it happen. But in a way it was empowering, but in a way it was totally the wrong thing to do. I still don't know. I kind of
Maybe things that are empowering are the wrong thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. So what happened?
Ooh. Everywhere. Some like prominent I don't want to shout out some, especially some prominent like right-wing personalities, especially a specific very popular radio talk show host aired that clip on their show talking about how ridiculous the leftist media and Twitch has gotten to hire a person who believes they're a deer on their advisory council. And oh my gosh, I underestimated how poor journalistic integrity is these days. Because if anyone had looked into it, right? If anyone had even
so Steph, I don't think you underestimated. I know I'm supposed to shut up, but I can't help myself.
Sure.
You didn't underestimate journalistic integrity. You underestimated the succulence of you.
Yeah, the succulence of me.
That's the best word.
You just titled my autobiography.
Right? Like, I mean, you can't give the dankest memers in the universe something so juicy. It's not about journalism. Like, what do you think these people are?
Right. You're right.
It's
You're
the
right.
dankest, sweetest, highest quality.
It's delicious.
It is.
I gave them what they
venison.
wanted.
You gave them venison.
Yes, I gave them exactly what they
wanted.
wanted.
Can't expect them not to eat it. Come on.
And I knew they would. I told them they would. But at least I said, like, you're gonna eat this, At least in a way, like that gave me some strength to be like,
yeah,
you want this?
Boy, do they want it.
Yeah, they do.
And then okay, so what happened next?
I mean, that's okay. And then kind of simultaneously, this is getting into more of my like, yeah, so that's event 2 out of 3. There's a third event that I think I have in a little bit of a way avoided because it's more personal. But I reached the top of Livestreamfails.
Congratulations.
Oh yeah, multiple top Livestreamfails finishes. Thank you. I maybe this is a speed run. Any percent first place, or I guess it's 100% Livestreamfails. For some really old content of me getting head scritches by my lovely partner And making it was a cozy stream. It was disclaimered and it was mature, although I don't believe I nothing about it was sexual. Um, where I was lying on some pillows just here in this room, and my partner was giving me gentle touches on my scalp and head, and I was trying to be as primal as possible and making noises of enjoyment.
Hmm.
Um, I that was never sexual. I was never aroused. It was just an intimate moment between me and my partner that I wanted to demonstrate for the world. Uh, but that became the infamous Deargasm. That was high quality, juicy cringe content for the world. Um, so
Thank you for your noble sacrifice, Steph.
I hope I can't not even I hope. I know it awakened some things in some people,
Yeah, you're
so
damn right.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder about like, all the deargasm, whether that's some amount of projection, which is when they insert their own feelings into what you see in another person. Just kind of
Yep.
curious. But
Definitely. And
okay.
it's like, wow. I don't know. It's like that. It's just so clearly not an orgasm by like my but it's funny. It's funny in that way. It's funny in that way because um I think it's obviously not an orgasm or anything sexual, but I think to the uninformed eye or the I
Well, I
guess
mean, most
people
of most of Twitch has never experienced an orgasm, so they don't know what one looks like.
thank you, Dr. K. I didn't want to say it.
I gotta check chat. No, it's too easy. It's too easy. Deep within me is a troll as well, and I just can't help. I can't help myself sometimes. It's too easy. The bait is just too succulent. But
That's me.
um, so what happened after that?
um, well, that's like the whole reason the internet's mad at me, Dr. K. We're there, and we're just 3 months later. I'm seeing
Are they still
I
mad
see
at
a
you?
lot of I see a lot of subtle death threats. There's a
Oh
lot
wow,
of there's a lot of
that's not funny.
people posting deer hunter memes. If you're a deer, then is it legal for me to kill you in hunting season? I've heard that probably close upwards of 500 times. And there's been some serious death threats. My
Wow, that's terrible.
my address has been leaked. I have been doxxed. Um, I want to move. I want to get out of here because it just takes one person
Yeah.
to want to
Wow,
come
that's
and kill me
terrifying stuff.
to kill me. And
You're
uh,
saying a lot of scary stuff, but you're smiling a little bit.
yeah, because I'm trying to like channel the absurdity of it and trying to make light of it, and everything's kind of a joke to me. I mean it's just a coping mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
really. Um, and it's also something that like while yeah it's traumatic and it's like ongoingly traumatic. Thank you for helping me like say that, by the way. It's in a way I'm detached from it because for my own sanity, like in a way it's not right now. I think if we actually had that interview several months ago, it would have been, it would have been still fresh, but now it's something that I'm like settling into as like, yeah, it's a fact of my existence. Like it's absurd in a lot of ways.
Sounds. I mean, you use the word detached. Like it feels a little bit almost dissociated. Because
Yep.
and that's what happens when we get traumatized. It's like we just say like, "Oh, this can't be real," and
Yep.
you can't sit with the thought of what you're actually facing because that would destroy you as a person.
Hmm. I would not be able to function. So I
Yeah.
gotta. And 2020 sucks for most people too. Like it's a rough year for all of us. Disassociating is the mood into our nightmare rectangles. That's my name for a phone.
Ah, nightmare
I
rectangle.
don't
I
think I
like that.
coined it, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of the. I mean, I couldn't tell if that was sort of the end of the timeline because the timeline's not over yet. But you were kind of saying that like that was like the third point. So now you're still sort of dealing with this stuff. It seems like it's persistent, but not quite as acute as it was
Mhm.
when you skyrocketed to the top of LSF.
Yep.
Um, yeah, thanks for sharing that. It sounds really rough.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for giving me the ability to, like, it feels really good to be able to speak um,
Can I
on this.
ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
So, can you tell us what it means to be trans? Can you help me understand that concept?
Yeah, to be trans, generally is a feeling of dysphoria for your gender identity or your gendered expression, or a feeling of euphoria for your preferred gender identity and gender expression, or both. Um, uh, to me,
What does
so
dysphoria mean?
dysphoria means a feeling of like uncomfortability with your body. It's kind of like your brain is expecting your body to be one thing, and
That's
in when
gender dysphoria or dysphoria in general?
that's dysphoria in general.
Oh, so you're saying that dysphoria is something about the physical form, a feeling about the physical form.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and that manifests like a disappointment when you look in the mirror, or when you see your body or that kind of thing. It's like an incongruence with what you wish you were seeing, or your mental expectation to reality. So
What is euphoria?
people euphoria would be a feeling of it would be like the opposite. It would be feeling like joy at like what you're seeing, or what you look at when you.
So my understanding is that that's gender dysphoria or gender euphoria. So,
Sure.
but that euphoria is just feeling good,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
but
So
like
opiates are,
if a trans
yeah,
euphoric,
yeah,
but also a trans woman often putting on a skirt and doing a twirl is euphoric, and
yep,
that
yep,
means you have gender euphoria
yep.
because you have
Okay.
presented femininely and it feels good, and that is enough in my mind to transition. We all should be, which is kind of a little bit contentious. Some people believe that you have to feel bad to transition, but I think we should all be choosing our best lives and like trying to chase happiness, wherever we go.
And so if I'm understanding you correctly, like, so to be trans is to have a dissatisfaction with when you look at yourself in the mirror,
Hmm.
and to have a satisfaction when your outward appearance or your body mirrors something of your mental expectation.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot for explaining that. Is it okay if I share like some of my experiences working with trans people and how they've described it to me?
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely more I could say,
Oh yeah, so
but
please say more.
I mean, I think it's also a hormonal thing often. So it can also be a dissatisfaction or with testosterone, or a satisfaction with testosterone, and the inverse. I found myself disliking how testosterone felt in me, and that was one of the largest drives for me to try estrogen and try blocking testosterone. And that that was kind of the doorway to opening up my trans identity. But I actually come from a biochemistry background. So that was kind of like tried to look at it in like a very chemical kind of way,
Mhm.
like, and I feel like my brain was always meant to be on estrogen, like that was just better for me, and I have
How
not
did you
looked
feel
back.
on testosterone?
Um, I felt, it's a little bit difficult because it's been so long ago. It's like a whole different person ago. I've gone through a second puberty, and now I have emerged a totally different entity
Mm.
than the me on testosterone. I feel, and I I felt like I didn't have as much emotional resolution. Um, and I kind of feel like I should disclaim this, like, when you accept yourself and transition at the same time, it can be kind of hard to differentiate what is from accepting yourself and understanding your mental state better, and what is from these hormones you're taking. And it's like, it's both. But I felt like, um, but also estrogen has increased my sensitivity to lights, sounds, tastes, and smells. Um, and I feel like I have a greater emotional bandwidth. Like sadness is many different colors instead of just, you know, a generalized feeling of being sad. Now I feel like I can understand a lot more of the nuance. Um,
Sounds like a hack. Sounds like an emotional hack.
yeah,
Sounds
and
OP.
I mean, we're here living. I choose your own hormone adventure. All you need to justify a transition is any transition, in my mind, is feeling beyond a reasonable doubt that it's gonna be what's it's gonna improve your life. It's gonna make you feel better.
Okay. So, is it okay if I share kind of my perspective? So, what I'd like to do is like
Sure.
uh, ask a couple of questions, which may come across as challenging, but I want to share my perspective of understanding transgender and sort of get your thoughts on that. So, here's the
Okay.
first thing. Um, so, I had a couple of people that I worked with that really explained this to me well. So, I think my best understanding of transgender, or really what I think helped me as a cis male understand transgender, is to like take your cis. So let's take cis men. Okay, so like most, I guess, I do think that 51% of Twitch chat is cisgendered men. Um, Statistically, I could be wrong here. I don't really know. And so, like, go buy a pair of high heels and go buy a dress. Your choice if you want to get makeup and jewelry and whatnot, and put those on. And the second you put those on, you are going to feel intensely uncomfortable. Look at yourself in the mirror and it's going to feel icky. It's going to feel weird. It's going to feel awkward. Now, that is the way that a transgender person feels before they transition every single day.
Yes.
How's that for a description? I think it's the best way that I've come to understand what it's like to empathize with a transgender person.
The first time I got brave enough to go to a thrift store and find a dress, it wasn't even, I mean, it's not like it's not a very pretty dress even. And like it wasn't even like a great dress, but I managed to get a dress and I put it on and I loved how I looked so much. I wore it as much as I possibly could for like 4 days. I was just jumping around my apartment because I felt finally liberated and free. And that part of me that like I had repressed for so long, like at some point I learned that me wearing a dress was wrong, that me expressing femininity was wrong, and that was like locked away until I finally was able to like overcome that. And it was amazing.
Yeah. That's the best way I can understand it in terms of like the intense discomfort you feel and the relief that you feel when you get out of those clothes is sort of like what a transgender person feels like. Now, I have a couple questions for you. So, like, let's say that when I look at myself in the mirror, I have a feeling that my nose looks wrong. And then I decide to have surgery to fix my nose. What do you think about that?
Um, I think I think that if your nose looking wrong or your discomfort at your nose severely impacts your mental health, that you should get surgery or try to improve your perception of yourself, either through surgery or yeah. I mean, I'm down.
So
I think you
I'm
should.
I'm gonna disagree with you. Is that okay for me to do?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I come from kind of honestly, Steph, I'm really conflicted about some of this stuff because I see two sides of a coin. on the one hand, like it really helps me understand like the trans person's perspective. And like I said, that's the perspective that helped me understand trans the best and the one that made the most sense to me. And it makes a lot of sense that like, you know, if you just feel like you're in the wrong skin to get into the right skin. The confusion that I have, because this is an internal disagreement. It's not that I disagree with you, it's that I disagree with parts of myself. Because I understand that. Like I get what I just explained. I have this other part that comes from like more of an Eastern tradition of like yoga and meditation and stuff like that, which actually posits that our sense of identity on the whole is actually like false. And that what truly makes us human is not gender, is not letters after my name, is not a particular age, and that there's some sort of inescapable humanness that is our truest form of self. And that the more that you peel back identity, the closer you become to your true self. And so I get a little bit conflicted because also as a psychiatrist, I've been trained that some people have something called body dysmorphia. And so like, you know, homosexuality used to be a psychiatric illness. I probably, to a certain degree, transgenderism used to be a psychiatric illness. Now we describe something called gender dysphoria, which kind of focuses on the or gender identity disorder. It doesn't necessarily mean that gender identity is disordered. It means that some people have a pathology associated with gender identity, right? It's like the disorder is not, doesn't define, it's not that your gender identity or gender identity can cause a disorder, but it can also not cause a disorder. And so what I kind of struggle with is that like what I'm hearing you say, and I understand like one side of it, right? Just kind of like I explained. But what I'm kind of confused by is like, at what point do we let feelings determine identity? You know, so that there's a part of me for like my yogic training actually tells me that feelings should be the last thing to determine identity because feelings are just feeling and who I am is who I am. And my feelings do not define me as a human being. I'm curious, what do you think about that?
Um, how do you feel about happiness? Like, is happiness something that we should pursue?
How do you define happiness?
Um, Dopamines, serotonins.
Nope.
Uh,
I don't think that's something we should pursue.
okay, interesting.
Right? So, like, if I believed that dopamine was worth pursuing for its own sake, I would be okay with cocaine use. I'm not okay with cocaine use.
Huh. Yeah, right. I mean, me neither. But
That's real quick shot of dopamine right there.
it is, but it's incredibly harmful to long-term dopamine
Sure.
generation. You know, you gotta should like min-max your dopamine farming
Yeah, but I know
for
it sounds,
sustainability. Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
So I don't even think that's a good idea. So
Yeah.
so like this is where I think happiness, like what is happiness? Is it the chasing of like positive feelings? No. I think what we
Mhm.
should chase is like calmness, tranquility, contentment, and peace, which is not necessarily happiness.
Right. Right. I definitely am in the camp of like we should be chasing happiness. And but I think you can definitely get happiness from, you know, calmness, tranquility, and like meditation is like an important part of being a happy being. And I mean we should all be looking for better, but I think a quest to pursue happiness is worth it on its own. And I I feel like I have a personal philosophy that if people pursued if people were maybe a little more selfish and pursued their happiness more, um they could live better lives and make changes to like improve where they're at. And to a point, like feel like there's so much like accepting a bad situation and being at peace with your bad situation. Uh, at what point do you like try to manifest change for better.
So I think that accepting your bad situation is the first step to manifesting change. I don't
Hmm.
think that the two are mutually exclusive. I think
Sure.
actually a lot of the problems that we run into in terms of why people are stuck is because they don't accept where they are. They focus too much on where they want to be. They
Mm,
focus too much about finding happiness if dot dot dot. I would be
right.
happier if dot dot dot. If I was in, you know, a different place. If I had a girlfriend, if I had more money, if I was promoted, if I was this, if I was that, if I was in a different body,
Hmm.
right? So like a lot of what you described makes sense to me in terms of like feelings and identity and dysphoria. Like when I look at myself in the mirror, I imagine that I would be happier if I did not have my dad bod with my dad gut. I look at myself and I strive and want to be more physically in shape. And I'm not so sure. I think it's fine to exercise. I think it's good to exercise. Personally, I am a little bit conflicted because at the same time, I think that like chasing after a particular external thing, and especially when I work with people with body dysmorphia, which I do believe is actually an illness, or illness really isn't the right word. I do think it causes a lot of suffering. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, what do you think about like body dysmorphia? And I'm happy to define it if you want.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's like, generally we think about people who look at themselves in the mirror and are unsatisfied with what they see and go to great lengths to change things. And sometimes even on an objective measure. So like the most difficult patients I've ever had to deal with in my history as a psychiatrist is male bodybuilders with body dysmorphia. They're every time they look in the mirror, they're unsatisfied with what they see. And it's they make progress and they're still unsatisfied. And so I really
Yeah.
struggle with the concept, the yogic side of me. So I understand the transgender example because that sort of just makes sense to me. And on the flip side, the yogic side of me struggles because I don't really understand, something feels wrong to me about letting your feelings determine who you are as a person. Right? Because something feels wrong to me when someone has been like raised in an abusive household and they feel like they're bad people and those are determined by the way that they feel. I do not believe that their identity is accurately determined by the way that they feel,
Sure. Yeah.
whether it be narcissism or low self-worth. I'm just not sure.
Hmm.
What do you think about that?
I agree with you. You're certainly giving me something to think about. Like uh um it's tricky because I think if someone is like, if maybe we can go back to the nose example, if someone is fixating on the fact that they don't like their nose intensely, if it's like distracting them from their day to day, if it's a mental handicap for them to have something that they could, and they have the ability to change that, I think that they should, to better their mental health. And especially like if you're talking about trans people, that taking different hormones could liberate so many mental processes that they're not that are spent being uncomfortable with their body, or like spent on these feelings. um, then I think, like, I fundamentally think that you should act on feelings, but maybe not all feelings. So I mean, I certainly have to think about, um yeah, yeah, it's certainly something for me to meditate on,
Yeah, I mean,
what you've
it's
said.
it's something that I struggle with because, like, on one hand of the spectrum, like I sort of, so my daughter loves to wear an Elsa dress. She like really loves, like sometimes she'll just change at random times. So like she'll like get ready for the day and then like 3:30 will roll around and she's like I feel like being a princess. She'll go upstairs and she'll just like change into her Elsa dress. And you know, there's a part of me that's kind of like, okay, like you do you, right? Like, so we want to support kids and
Right.
let them be like who they are. And if you want to be a princess, then like by all means go for it. There's another part of me that sort of wonders a little bit though. Like there's some parts of me that are concerned. One is that like ultimately what I'm teaching my daughter is that her happiness is dependent on the kind of clothing she wears or her perception of her identity or how she looks on the outside. That's not something I actually want to instill in my daughter. Like there's a part of me that wants like, because she asks for princess things, and as a parent I'm like, absolutely go for it, like you do you. And then like I'm conflicted because then there's another part of me like, what am I teaching her? That the clothing that you wear and the way that you look on the outside determines who you are? Because that I don't agree with at all. Like I just don't know,
Right.
you know. So I just get
But
to yeah.
I would say that her enjoyment has value, right? Her positive feelings, she wants to enjoy this. She feels good.
Completely agree.
Like,
And so
and
so then we
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
I think if you like you kind of you're maybe running the risk of like hurting her enjoyment of a thing to, when you remind her that like this shouldn't matter in that sense, that like
Absolutely. So I think that's really tricky. Are you feeling okay, by the way? Is it okay that we're having this discussion?
yeah, we're in difficult and kind of existential places, but I feel good. I'm
Okay.
comfortable.
Do you feel attacked or in
Well,
any way?
no,
Okay.
no.
So I'm with you there too, because like I kind of get what you're saying that, you know, I balk at the word should, like that she should be
Yeah, yeah.
something, right? And so to sacrifice enjoyment for the sake of what she should be, because that I think is a whole different problem that I also react very negatively against, right? That we tell people that you're not allowed to be happy unless you are what I think you should be. That's a whole, I mean, that's how, you know, gender identity discrimination started, right? With
Yeah.
that concept. So I take issue with that. And at the same time, I also kind of have this other side of the coin. And this is really why I struggle with this stuff is, you know, to chase good feelings, I think is also problematic from the yogic side, right?
Okay.
Because to say that like, hey, if you feel happier doing it, go for it, right? Because then you kind of get back to like the trolls of the internet. Because like, are we saying that they should sacrifice their trollish enjoyment for the sake of what we think they should be? Or are we saying like actually satisfying your enjoyment because of the way that you feel? And if you're like, if I'm a Nazi and it satisfies my sense, like it gratifies my feelings to act, behave, or even portray myself in a particular way, like let's say I get a tattoo, then like how do we navigate? Like I just rub up against this issue of like feelings determining identity and chasing good feelings.
So there's like an emotional there's like a emotional maturity and like emotional intelligence side to this, of like not trying to hurt other people. Like it feels good to help other people. And if you're chasing good feelings in a self-harming way, I don't think that's a good thing for you to be doing. If you're chasing feelings in a way that hurts other people, that makes other people's lives worse, I don't think you're you're doing the right thing either. So
I agree. I think that the tricky thing though is like this kind of comes back to your succulence. I think something about you really like gets at people. And I'm not saying that's bad, but I think like something about you like really rubs people the wrong way, right? And it could be because you're challenging things that need to be challenged. But it's kind of interesting because like I don't know why when they look at you, like it's fucking crazy stuff. Like, why are they doxing you? What did you do? Because there's no way that you said something. It doesn't compute in my mind that you have the power to say anything that evokes the response that you got,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think right, I agree with you. I mean, it hasn't I've been around for a long time and it hasn't gotten this bad until like Twitch endorsed me in the sense of hiring me. Definitely. As soon like I wasn't as soon as Twitch, the entity, gave me their endorsement, it became an issue that I was this way, that I am who I am, that I say what I say.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is where like I once again I'm kind of conflicted because that makes a lot like it just doesn't make sense that you're deserving of what happened to you, and at the same time, I feel like their reactions have some kind of dysphoria based on who you are. And in my experience, a lot of anger and hatred actually stems from hurt more than anything else.
Mhm.
That like if you look at the incel community, like I think there are a lot of people who have been hurt and that hurt somehow transforms into hatred. And now I get really confused because then it's like it's kind of like, is that woman responsible for hurting that dude? Because I that doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
And so I think it gets really confusing for me because I don't really know how to navigate. Okay, so gratifying your own feelings at the expense of others sounds bad. But now we get to this ridiculous situation where your existence hurts other people, right? Because that's what you said. Like you said, like they're just transphobic, and then like yeah, I'm confused. I don't really know like how to sort through this because I have these two really strong conflicting kind of views. One is, if I can lay those out to you, one is that like feelings, the yogic part of me says that feelings should not determine identity. In fact, the more that you let your feelings determine identity, the more suffering you'll lead and the more false identity you'll build. That's what sort of yoga and Buddhism sort of says, that if I like determine my identity based on a feeling of pride because I'm CEO of XYZ or I have a particular net worth, that's going to cause problems.
How are trans people, like just in general, how do they reconcile their existence to that
You're the
that
trans person.
thought?
I don't know. Because I understand the
Okay.
perspective. I understand the perspective of like, if I like put on high heels and a dress, that would feel really fucking uncomfortable. And it makes perfect sense to me that if I was in the position where I was waking up every day and society told me to wear high heels and a dress, I would completely get behind someone who says, I don't want to wear high heels and a dress. I want to wear jeans and a t-shirt. And I would support that
Okay.
person 100%. Makes perfect sense to me. And it's conflicting with this other thing.
All right. Yeah. Sure. Well, um I mean, we're all out here trying to do our best, right? Like
Absolutely.
I'm not, and I don't think life is something to just drift through in the sense of like, you know, mitigate. I don't think we should be mitigating emotions. I mean, you're the expert on like this philosophy that like I'm trying to quickly,
Sure, sure.
integrate and like understand. But um, I think life the if we're gonna get really deep, I think I think one of the fundamental purposes of one of the fundamental joys of existing in life and that kind of thing is appreciating art in moments in the present or just what other humans have made. I think that's something that's like
Cool.
fundamentally awesome about the human consciousness, that like we can make and share art, uh, and feel feel things about it, not just good
Hmm.
things, but all things. And I think in that way, feelings give my life purpose. They're like there's very important, and they can be destructive and they can be dangerous. And like new new relationship energy is something I love because it makes me feel really good. But I have to be very careful about like, you know, uh, about like not hurting people along the way. If I go and date and flirt with someone new, like super exciting and fun, and I get all joyous and I jump around, I have energy, I'm happy. And I like that. I like being happy, and I want to continue chasing those feelings. Because I feel like they make me the kind of person that can also share that happiness with others. Um, which is something I fundamentally like want to do, is make other people happy. And I think some of that, boy, brain tangents. I mean, some of that is definitely coming from like old feeling of like trying to find worth in a family that like, I wasn't as academically gifted as my older brother, for instance. And so I found value in like making puns. I've got a huge pun brain, by the way. I don't I like don't I actually like suppress my punliness. I'm
Oh,
really good at making puns, but I
that's
don't
sad.
do it. Why is it sad?
Because I think the best part of what you have to offer the world may be puns. If it's what your brain was made for, then give it to us, dude.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, there there are funnier jokes, and puns have a place and time, and
Okay.
should not be used as a substitute for conversation, in my opinion. And some people like, instead of having a real conversation, kind of it was a behavior for me that
Okay.
was destructive, in the sense that like,
Okay.
instead of, yeah. Anyway, um, so I think I'm worth way more than my puns, Dr. K.
Okay.
um, but uh, yeah, so like I have this drive to make people happy, and it does feel existentially fulfilling when I have a stream and I make people's day, and they're going through something, and like I can help them feel better. Like that is why I turn on the camera every time that I do. That's why I'm like driven to streaming as much as I am. It's like wanting to heal people and help them feel better.
Interesting. Okay. So I mean I'm hearing you kind of share my dichotomy because you're kind of saying that like, flirtation and stuff makes you feel good. And I don't know if you quite said this, but that maybe that's not necessarily a healthy thing to chase.
You have to
Because
be careful. Yeah, you can't
yeah.
just chase happiness. Absolutely not.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of the struggle, and I'm just kind of thinking about the people who are watching, and like one of the things that I really struggle with, when I work with our community, is like how do they know which are the feelings to give into and which are the ones to overcome, right? Which feelings do you chase and which feelings do you set aside? Like, how do you know? Like, and we get to this very like the best example I can think of is quitting. How do you know when like quitting is the right move and for you to say like, okay, this actually isn't going to work. I should drop out of college. Or I'm going for like I'm trying to become a pro gamer and like now it's time to quit. Like it's enough. Enough
Yeah.
is enough. And when do you give in to that sense of wanting to give up? And when do you say to yourself, okay, even though I have these feelings, I'm not going to let them define me as a person? Because the really tricky thing, and this is the dichotomy that I run into, is like on the one hand, I'm with you, right? Like, but there isn't always a clear answer. There are some times where letting your feelings, and this kind of goes back to your, something really rubbed me the wrong way with the way that you defined a furry, which is something about, your identity is based on the wish that your body had animal attributes. And I don't know if I missed the first couple words of that definition, but there's just something that feels like scary to me about like having your identity be defined by your wishes. Like that just doesn't. I feel like what makes people human is not what they wish for. It's like what they are.
Right.
Right. So like,
Totally.
and maybe this just comes from medicine, but I'm specifically thinking about a kid with pediatric cancer, and like, boy, there are a lot of wishes in the room, but that's not who they
Yeah.
are. Right.
Yeah.
And who they
Absolutely.
are is very different from what they wish for.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of struggle with like, when do you let your feelings determine who you are? Like if you're an incel, you say like, okay, I feel like I'm unlovable, and so That's who I am an incel. They claim this identity based on feelings. And that there's a part of me that like understands where they're coming from, but there's a part of me that just grates against me. And even when you talk about furries, I'm not trying to be not understanding or challenge them or things like that. But there is just something that like rubs me the wrong way from a yoga perspective. That even like describing myself as a male is a yogic mistake, and and describing myself as an anything is a mistake because you are not determined by. And sorry if I'm talking too much, but like I'll offer one last example, which is like I sometimes think about when I became a doctor, and it's not when I got an MD after my name, right? Like who you are is not determined by how you look. Or this is what I sort of at the end of the day, this is what rubs me the wrong way. Is like I feel like who I am is not determined by the fact that I have a penis or that I'm a doctor or that I'm Indian or that I'm a male. That my humanity actually transcends all of those qualities.
Mhm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we are all individuals, and in a lot of ways, labels help us. Identity labels help us understand each other in broad strokes. But ultimately, to like know somebody, you have to know them as a human outside of those.
So, any idea, like if you had to give people concrete advice, people who are thinking about quitting because they feel a certain way, any thoughts about like what you would tell them? Because you've struggled a lot with like who you are and what your feelings tell you. And it sounds like you've come to a place of like peace and contentment and tranquility around that.
Mhm.
And sorry for putting you on
Um,
the spot, but does that make sense? Like, because you've walked
it
that journey,
does.
you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I mean, you evoked quitting like esports and that kind of thing, quitting a competitive. I in a lot of ways I would say that quitting is difficult because I think people subject themselves to a lot of harm before they decide that it's time to quit, because it's really hard to give up on an investment that you've put yourself into and admit that something was not healthy for you or is now not healthy for you. Um, and I think I think it's important to um, appreciate the journey for what it is and the path, and be proud of yourself for trying as hard as you did. But uh, I think if it's time to quit, I feel like in a lot of ways you already know that, you just haven't accepted it yet. That like you've been
Mm.
feeling bad for a while and persisting persisting anyway, and that um uh and if that's not changing into something that's healthier for you, like the thing you're looking for, the wish that you were actually a pro gamer, the wish that you're on the team, um you have two choices really, and it's to either, like, how I see it anyway, it's either to double down and try harder, or to stop and let it be, and you know try to find something else to do. And so if you're on that precipice and doubling down, if that's not an option, I think that's what people really look at, is like, can I do better? Can I push myself
Mm.
harder? Um, but uh,
Yeah. Thanks so much for that perspective, Steph. I really appreciate it. We've been kind of at this for a little while. How you holding up?
I'm pretty tired. I need to
Yeah.
get more water.
Yeah. Do you want
Um,
to?
it's been,
Should we go ahead and wrap up, or you want to try meditating, or take a? I'm kind of spent too, to be honest. I think we
why don't
covered.
we why don't we why don't we wrap up? I mean,
Okay.
if you'd
Cool.
have me on again, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious actually a little bit about. We didn't really get into like what you mentioned a little bit about your brother and what your upbringing was like, and I'd love to hear more about that at some point. Um,
Yeah, sure.
Forget about sort of the drama and your gender identity and all that kind of stuff, which we kind of focused on today, and just talk about like you,
Yeah,
irrespective
sure.
of your, whether you're a furry or other kin or, that don't really care about any of that stuff. Um,
Yeah, I'm not another Ken, but
Yeah. Um, how do you feel about meditation?
I like meditating. I
Okay.
don't I I don't often. I wish I did more, but
So there's a particular. You said you're going to go get. You want to get some water?
yeah, mind if
Go
I
get some
do?
water. Yeah,
Because
and can you get something to eat as well?
yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, just get some small amount of food to eat, and you two Twitch chat. We're
Okay.
going to do a meditation. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, so I know that. I mean, I don't know how to say this, but like, so I think it's okay to disagree with Steph, right? Like, I disagree with Steph. Like, I mean, the last 30 minutes has been on some level me disagreeing with Steph. I don't think, I mean, I would hope that chat is, so, these are not, how can I say this? The stream is not about people being right and y'all being wrong, right? It's like, it's not about you being right and them being wrong. It's about like listening to someone else's perspective, and you're welcome to disagree with it. I'd encourage you to disagree with it. I'd encourage you to disagree with us. And that's okay. Like, it's just about hearing another person's perspective. Yeah. So that if Steph, I was trying to, oh, she can't hear yet. Yeah. I mean, so then like, this is the kind of, sorry, Steph, I was interacting with chat for a moment, and I was trying to get a sense of like what chat has been like. And it seems like, I mean, I've been glancing over from time to time. It's pretty okay to me. But apparently some people are, being a little bit toxic towards you, which I guess is not unexpected, is you come to expect. And at the same time, I'm just really curious about like why they have to treat, like, I'm just curious, like, what about, it goes back to your succulents. Like, what is it about you that they have to hate and attack? Like, why do they care so much to come and spew? I just don't understand. Like, I genuinely do not understand it. Like, what, why not do something more productive with their day than come here and try to talk trash? Um, I'm not. It's not a
I
rhetorical
don't have
question. It's like a
I don't have
genuine
the
question.
answer.
Like, what do people gain, right? So they're chasing a feeling too, or they're
Yeah.
chasing an identity and a feeling that comes from attacking you in some way. So, like, what
Yeah.
is that? Are they like making the world a better place by calling someone trash in Twitch chat? Like, are they solving the world's problems and standing up for injustice? Um,
I yeah, that's not my question to answer.
yeah,
I don't
I really
think.
don't. Steph, I think honestly, part of the problem with the way that we treat the internet is that we don't actually talk to the people who are toxic, which I know is a really
Yeah.
dangerous game, but it's something that
I
I hope to do
for sure.
more of. How do you feel about that?
I do. I mean, I've talked to a lot of my harassers to try to understand them.
Yeah,
I have.
how's that
Um,
worked? Not well, I assume.
uh, Usually well.
Oh,
If
really?
I
Cool.
can, yeah, I mean, most people that have a dialogue with me, um, feel better
That's
about
awesome.
me by the end of the dialogue. I don't have enough, there's not enough stuff to go around. Um, and, uh, Usually people think a lot of very, very prominent thought is that I have mental illness and I'm invalid as a human that should like exist and speak and have my perspectives are in some way like dangerous, toxic,
Hmm.
and like I should be quarantined away. And that's why a lot of them want to hurt me.
Hmm.
Others are on the bandwagon, want someone to bully. I am a valid target for bullying in their brain, and they get some enjoyment out of that. They don't know who it's okay to be mean to, so when they find someone when it's like they have the target, they're like okay with it, I guess.
You're contagious. Your transgenderism is contagious. Is that what they're afraid of?
I don't think it's that, but maybe partially. My whole
Because you
it's like
said
a slippery
quarantined,
slope.
right? So when people use the
Yeah,
word quarantined, I think of the
sure.
word contagious.
Yeah, maybe it's just like my radical self-acceptance is super dangerous, and like my acceptance of other people is dangerous, and I don't like it's kind of unfair to like have me be the one who answers for my trolls.
Yeah,
I can
fair,
only kind of say what
fair.
I kind of see, but they're all individuals that have their own personal reasons. And when I paint them in broad strokes, they just get more angry
It's
because,
unfair. It's unfair to ask you to do that.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about meditation. So you grabbed something to nibble on?
I have a nibble.
Okay, awesome. So I want you to, yeah, go ahead and open it up. And Twitch chat, you guys grab something as well.
We're gonna have a Zen moment with Twitch chat and everyone. I like this.
Zen? I don't, not Twitch chat. Come on, Steph.
I want to
We're
believe.
gonna
I'm projecting.
we're gonna
Some
we're gonna see if we can get by the next couple of minutes without creating a dank meme. That's the best we can hope for. The Zen moment
yeah.
happens, it happens. But okay, so I want you to sit up straight.
Somewhere in Twitch chat, people are having a Zen moment with us. There's always that's represented too.
So sit up straight and go ahead and close your eyes. And feel the person that you are. Just try to, I know this is going to sound weird, but how do you know you exist? You don't have to answer. And try to figure out, like, what is it that lets you know that you exist? And so that starts with sort of the sense of you. Yeah, go ahead.
Turn off these lights.
Okay. So just feel the person that you are. There's something there that is doing some kind of experiencing, right? You may feel your body. A lot of times people can feel their breath. You may notice your thoughts. So somewhere in there is you. And sometimes people have a perception that what they are is to be shamed or to be proud of. But I encourage you, if you feel anything either positive or negative, just notice that that is a feeling. It is an emotion that goes across the screen of yourself. That feelings fluctuate with time. And that at the end of the day, no matter what the feeling itself is or the thought is, that there is an experiencer of those thoughts and feelings. There's a backdrop under which thoughts and feelings exist. Now try to get a sense of the person who experiences the feelings. Are you the feelings or are you the experiencer of feelings? And are your thoughts you or are your thoughts thought by you? Try to just get a sense of, like, sit with the person that you are for a moment. And now I want you to think about the ways in which you identify yourself, whether it be gender or job or location or name, gamer, troll, genius, kind, compassionate, good person, or shame, worthless. A ball of envy, a ball of fantasy, hope, longing, wishing that you were something else. whatever it may be. Pride, accomplishment, however you think of yourself. And now, take a bite of your nibble. And then ask yourself, who is it that's doing the tasting? As you taste this thing, is this person accomplished? Are they shameful? Are they a man? Are they a woman? Are they a streamer? What is this person? And then tunnel down into this experience precisely. Where is the gender in this? Where is the accomplishment? Where is the shame? Those things may exist somewhere within you, but in this moment, you're just someone who's eating. And focus on the taste that is left in your mouth, maybe the sensations of little crumbs or whatever there may be. And try to ask yourself, where is the gender here? Where is the joy? Where is the happiness? Where is the hatred? Where is the shame? Where is the gamer? What is this person? And as best as you can, notice that underneath all of these qualities, whether it be age or name, or a sense of bank account or accomplishment or lack of accomplishment, there's just you. That there may be some things that fluctuate within you, but at the end of the day, there's just you. On a good day, on a bad day, yesterday, today, tomorrow. And take solace in who you are, whether what's on the inside is good or bad, because that changes. There are days that you can forget and days that you remember strongly. But if that's true, then neither of those things can truly be you. It can feel like you. You can be one with, infused with what's on the inside. But at the end of the day, you are just you. That you may have feelings, you may have desires, you may have questions, you may have confusion. But that you are what you are, and there's actually nothing wrong with you. Even if there's unhappiness. That unhappiness can just be a shade of who you are. And there's nothing right with you. You are what you are. And when you're ready, let Steph come back. Allow her back in. Advocate, champion, villain. All of those things. That's Steph. Right? And so be it. Like, Steph is a cool person. Doesn't have to be you. And no matter what you feel or how people treat you, Steph, no one can take what you are away from you. They can just make you feel a certain way, but they can't take you away from you. Sorry, did you say something? I didn't. Oh.
I said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. How do you feel? What was that like? Did that make sense? I can never tell because I can't actually read your mind.
Yeah, no, it made sense. It was nice. It was good to take a moment to kind of deconstruct existence and experience. I mean,
It's a good way to put it.
we are a lot of things. I am a lot of brain. I'm not just my taste buds, but I can be just my taste buds in the right in the right mind state. So
Yeah, so oddly enough, if I can give you a direction, is that okay?
sure.
So I'd encourage you to, you can do this practice or breathing practices or whatever. And when you say, I'm a lot of things, I would really check, because I think that is the statement that I disagree with the most. And this is the one I'm confident about, that you are none of those things. Steph may be a lot of things, but you are none of those things. And so see which of those things you actually are. Yeah, I know it doesn't make sense. Don't worry about
Yeah, my microphone doesn't seems to not want to work as well all of a sudden.
it.
I'll lean in. Maybe it's because we've gotten all quiet.
Yeah.
But
Well, thanks a lot for coming on
thank
today,
you.
Steph. I
Yeah.
hope this was, I didn't know, what people were expecting or what you were expecting, but I'm always happy to disappoint.
No, you were great. I've heard great things. I haven't like watched your content before, but you were a good host, and I appreciate that we are different people, and we got to have like such a good discourse, and I got to speak my mind, which is like, uh, really nice to
Thank you so much
be
for
able
sharing that, by the way.
to speak
Yeah.
for me is like really so thank you for giving me the platform to do that. Like it's
Yeah,
really
of
nice.
course. I hope we've been helpful in some small way, and I really wish you all the best. I mean, you may deserve, I know this sounds bizarre, but I think that like you got to be careful in terms of, sometimes I think when we get a bunch of criticism, we may deserve some of that criticism, but I can't imagine anything that you've said or done that makes you deserving of the way that people are treating you. You know, there's just no way. I just don't see it. There's no way that I can fathom what you're experiencing is actually what you deserve. Doesn't mean that you didn't screw up here or there, because I think
Sure.
that's usually what happens, but it sounds like really unfair the way that people are treating you. So good luck to you, Steph.
Thank you. You have a
And
good day.
you too.
Chat, you have a good
Bye.
day too. Bye.